Yeah, done with my Oreo.
Okay, good.
Do we really know what happened?
The brother did.
The brother, that's what I thought too.
I mean, that seems like kind of obvious.
Hey, do you want to talk about death?
Yeah. I mean,
Mystery murdery thingy.
Did you do it?
I did.
Did you do it?
I did the thing. Welcome to Mystery Murdery Thing.
Hey guys,
Hey,
I would
what's
like
up?
to thank you for dealing with us,
99
And-
episodes.
our inconsistency, and I appreciate it. Thank you for still listening to us.
Yeah.
But
And-
we're here, and we're ready to go.
And we're doing it. Okay. Let's do it. Who's going to go first?
I'm
I'm Mario, by the way.
Oh yeah, what are we? What is this? Who? What? Who are you?
This is Mystery Murdery Thing.
This is mystery murdery thingy. That's Mario.
Yes.
My name is Chloe.
Yes.
And welcome. We talk about mysteries
And murderies.
and thingies. And
yeah.
today I have a murdery. Do you also have a murdery?
Well, we don't really know. That's part of the mystery.
Oh, so you have like
Should
a
I-
straight up mystery.
Okay, I'll just go first.
Go
'cause
first.
I like to go first. This is one that, yes, we had kind of looked at and thought about doing, and had kind of like left by the wayside, honestly. But we got a message asking us to take another look, and we decided to do that. So
Yeah.
I'm going to be doing the tragic death of Kenneka Jenkins in Chicago. Just, less than 3 years ago, really. So, Kenneka Jenkins was a 19-year-old resident of Chicago who unfortunately was found dead on September 10th of 2017 in a walk-in freezer within a cooler in an unused kitchen in the Crowne Plaza O'Hare Hotel in Rosemont. And we'll kind of get into the whole circumstance of how this happened, but the last time that she was seen, as far as we know, was when she was captured by security footage, by security cameras in the hotel at about 3:20 a.m. Early on the morning of Saturday, September 9th. Kenneka was seen apparently very heavily intoxicated, going through the lobby of the hotel early the morning of Saturday, September 9th. And a short time later, she was seen again on security camera footage, this time leaving an elevator by herself and having difficulty keeping balance, as she was kind of stumbling against a wall and then continuing to walk and leaving the frame of the camera. And while she was alone at that particular time, that was not the case for most of that evening. She, in fact, had started her night at home, just hanging out with her mom until about 11:30 p.m. on the night of Friday, September 8th. And at that point, she told her mom, "Hey, I'm going to go out. Can I borrow your car? I'm going to go out and go bowling, some late night bowling with my friends."
How old is she again?
She's 19. So she, but that's not what she does. She goes to a hotel in room 926 of the Crowne Plaza Hotel in Rosemont, where there was going to be this big party, and this party, I don't know, it was kind of weird. Like, it's not that weird to have a hotel room party, right? That's kind of like a normal teenager thing to do. But this one was booked with a stolen credit card.
Oh, so it was kind of
And
sketchy.
It was kind of sketchy, yeah.
Yeah.
And there were some noise complaints made throughout the night, but nothing really that, other than the stolen credit card thing, really had nefarious, and the underage drinking seemed to happen, like, at the party itself. But anyway, according to her friends, like in some of the statements that they made to the police and the media and so forth, Kenneka appeared somewhat withdrawn during the party that night, like not quite herself. She reportedly drank a lot, but didn't take any drugs. They were seen, and there was only one that was found in her system after the autopsy, which we'll talk about. And she briefly kind of danced, but generally didn't seem to be enjoying herself too much, right? They said kind of dance and then go sit down, and she seemed kind of down. And one attendant reported that Kenneka seemed so drunk that she was like swaying back and forth And when she like hugged him, she was like very settled on her feet. And another attendant said that she was, quote, wasn't acting like her usual self, close quote. So something else seemed to be going on. And while some of the statements from the party's attendants kind of changed over time, that part seemed fairly consistent and clear. Like, she seemed very drunk. She didn't quite see
She was
herself
kind of
that day.
off.
Was kind of off, yeah. So the last time anyone had contact with Kenneka, as far as we know, was her sister, Leonore Harris, with whom she was texting at about 1:30 a.m. on Saturday morning. And eventually, this is right about the time that she kind of went missing as well. So eventually, a Facebook live stream video would emerge that purported to show the party in the room in 926. And this kind of came out like right even that night, and when things were the next day, when things were kind of like starting to show up in the media. And it ended up being viewed millions of times and like pored over for any possible evidence, right, by police official investigators, but also by, internet sleuths. If you've heard of this case, it's like very sort of famous on YouTube and stuff for weird videos that are like basically like conspiracy theory videos. And that kind of stuff started like kind of right from the beginning. So, and some people claimed that you could even hear like Kenneka on that video, Facebook live stream video, like calling out for help in the background. But that doesn't actually seem like probably what would happen.
I feel like I listened to that and tried to hear it.
It's like in some of the stories and stuff, but it's like probably not true. One of the attendants said that the song that was playing used a sample of somebody saying like help or something.
Okay.
Like it was just music playing in the background, and then they make these YouTube videos where it's this enhanced sound thing, and it makes it sound like it's something that it's not. So just there was some kind of debunking done around that specifically. So as you can imagine, though, the internet sort of theorizing and conspiracy theorizing and it was, like I said, strong from the very beginning, continues to be strong.
Yeah.
So, but in any case, from what could be parsed by, police official investigators, it seemed like Kenneka's friends sort of briefly, for whatever reason, well, I'll say why, left Kenneka to retrieve Kenneka's phone and car keys that she had left at the party. They went to this party. About an hour or two later, they ended up leaving, but it seemed like Kenneka left her phone, at least according to her friends, left her phone and her car keys in room 926. So they had to like go back. But what didn't make sense to me or to her mom was why they would just leave her, especially if she was so drunk.
Yeah.
But there were 4 of them. One of them couldn't have stayed with her.
I know, right?
Or 2 or 3, and the other one went and... So that part of it always seemed kind of strange. But that's, like part of the mystery of this. So anyway, what they say is by the time they got back with her car keys and her phone, Kenneka was gone. They don't know why, but she had just like walked off.
I mean, yeah, she's drunk.
But yeah, again, she seemed very, very drunk. And when she had been missing for about an hour, so about 4:30 a.m. on Saturday morning, Kenneka's friends decided to call her mom, Teresa Martin. And Teresa arrived about a half an hour later, rather, at about 5 a.m. and spoke with the front desk and to Kenneka's friends. And the hotel management told her that they could not review security footage until they actually had a missing persons report, like, filed with the police, and the police told them. That's, like, what they told her. Now, obviously, that wasn't...
Is that true?
I mean, that was, like, their policy, I guess.
That doesn't sound true. I don't know. I actually don't know.
I mean, I don't know.
Maybe it is a thing for various reasons.
Like,
I don't know.
For safety reasons.
Liability or
privacy reasons or something. I don't know. But anyway, that's what they told her. And at that point, Teresa, of course, called the police, wanting to file that missing persons report, right, so she could get this done. But they wouldn't do it. They were, like, downplaying her concerns, saying, oh, just, wait, see if she turns up. This happens a lot, and is, of course, the exact opposite of what one should do in a situation like this. Those first few, if you've ever seen an episode of CSI or what is it called, Criminal Minds, any of these shows, and I think it's also true. It's real police truth that the first few hours and minutes are actually critical in finding someone who's truly missing, and probably don't you think we should assume they are instead of assuming they aren't?
I agree.
I mean, I don't know.
Better safe than sorry, right?
Yeah, that's what one would think.
Better to have her be like, "Come on, you guys, I wasn't missing," than
yeah. But anyway, that official declaration of Kenneka as a missing person did actually occur at about 1:15 p.m. And by that time, Kenneka had been missing for about 10 hours. So all public areas.
At that point, it's
yeah. I mean, yes, of course, she's truly missing at this point. I mean, come on. So all public areas and the 9th floor, especially, were searched, but no trace of Kenneka was found. And that afternoon, police did an initial search of hotel footage that was unsuccessful, and then they left. Kenneka's family continued to search. They came back for a third time later that night. Started just knocking on people's doors from the top floor to the bottom floor, saying, hey, have you seen Kenneka Jenkins? Hey, do you know anything? The hotel, instead of helping them, decided to call the police on them, saying, hey, these people are just, bothering random guests. Yeah. And thankfully, apparently, one of the officers that responded to that call was very understanding and was actually, hey, I want to help the family.
Yeah.
And decided to sort of take it upon him or herself to, okay, we're going to review more footage. We're going to review footage until we find something.
Good.
Because clearly there would be something.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's the game. Look through the footage. Yes, it's going to take hours, but there's going to be something. So anyway, they do, in fact, do that. And sometime after 10 p.m. on Saturday night, they locate footage of Kenneka in the lobby that I mentioned earlier. And at some point later that night, at about 12:30 or so, Kenneka's body was located in the aforementioned freezer within the cooler in the unused kitchen. And she was pronounced dead at 12:48 a.m. early Sunday morning. Now, obviously, her family was distraught at this point, just completely distraught. And we're left really wondering if Kenneka had been killed. That was their question from the very beginning. Never been satisfactorily answered, to their satisfaction. Or I think to most people's satisfaction, really. I mean, again, this is the whole thing with this case, right? I mean, it's not that old. People remember this. They have their opinions. Yeah. But who's to say whether it was murder or not? There's just really not that much to go on. But based on, the initial investigation, sort of how it was conducted, the family were left obviously very skeptical that this was being properly handled, or had ever been properly handled from the very beginning, by the police or by the hotel. And as we'll see, they make that as an official declaration in court. As we'll do. So, it also seemed weird to Kenneka's mother, Teresa, that Kenneka would, in fact, have left her phone, back in however drunk she was, right, back in the room. She was very skeptical of this friend's story in general. Mm-hmm. So, do we really know what happened around that whole time?
Yeah, do you think one of the friends knows something?
It doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't, there's just so little to go on, but...
really?
It could.
You'd think that, I don't know, I feel like one of the friends has to know something. Maybe? I don't know. This is a tough one.
Yeah, and according to Teresa, to Kenneka's mom, the friends' stories kind of changed over time, too. So that wouldn't, maybe that's just because they're nervous.
Well, they were all drunk.
Their friend died because they were drunk.
Yeah.
But
none of them were probably in the, it's like a completely sober state of mind, I assume.
That seemed the whole point of the night.
Yeah.
But, yeah. After hearing from the friends, examining the evidence, police and medical examiners believed and ruled that Kenneka's death was an accident, that it was an accidental death. And authorities determined that Kenneka was seen in security footage near the freezer where she was found, and theorized that she opened the door of the cooler, which was a latch, and then the walk-in freezer within it, which was also a latch, and then laid down and died because she was really drunk, which in a way makes sense and in a way makes absolutely no sense at all.
Well, it's tough because she's drunk.
Right.
And drunk people don't do things that make sense, right? So maybe she was like, oh my God, I'm hot, I'm sweating. And like went into the freezer and was like, oh, I'll just sit here for a little bit, and fell asleep.
Right. Her sister especially felt that she wouldn't have been coordinated enough to do this, that those latches are kind of heavy, and that, but I mean, that's fairly circumstantial. Whether she would have been able to or not, you know, it's
So-
sort of hard to determine.
Was it that she was locked in there and couldn't get out?
No, good question.
Because I know
No.
most freezers have those security measures for safety or whatever.
So on the inside of the freezer. So again, this is a kitchen that was not currently being used. There was no food in it, but it was being cooled and left on because there was a restaurant that was being opened in the hotel, and they were, this was just like a flex freezer that they could have used, so they wanted to keep it cool, keep it, you know, at freezing temperatures. But on the very inside of the freezer, it was the kind of thing where you have to like press like a little button or something, or like pull a little tab, and that releases the latch, you know, on the outside, and then you can open the door. And then the other one, it was just, you could open it. But according to the hotel, all the lights were also off at the time. So she was walking into, I think you have to keep that in mind too, she was walking into like a place that was sort of under construction, and then opening this latch into a dark room, and then going into another completely dark room, both of which were consecutively colder than the other. It just seems very strange to me. The whole thing, from the very beginning when I heard about it in 2017, seemed very strange. You know, it leaves you with a very unsettled feeling.
I always thought it was an accident, but I heard about a cover-up? Question mark? Do you know anything about that?
I didn't really hear anything about a cover-up necessarily in my sources. I mean, I think that...
Of course not. They're keeping it a secret.
Sure. I mean, that's the whole point, right? I mean, I think a cover-up has been alleged, you know, sort of, you know, against the hotel, that someone may have been involved, that there may have been hotel employees that were aware that the party was happening, and the party was being done with a stolen credit card, and therefore they wanted to cover things up. I did hear that, but I never heard who those people were, or that they were ever charged, or anything else about that. But that is one avenue that I did hear about, but that wouldn't necessarily seem to lead to murder per se, right? I mean, there are other like allegations and theories, but I'm just not going to get into them because they're just people saying things. Like, you know?
That's how it's like with this case.
Yeah.
It seems.
Yeah, it's just people making stuff up.
Yeah.
I don't know. So when so to get back to my write-up, authorities didn't offer any specific theory, though, as to this sort of question that we've been hashing out, right, as to why she would have gone into the freezer, other than she was drunk and it happened. So Kenneka's family also claimed that Kenneka, in her inebriated state, like I said, would have lacked the coordination or the strength to be able to do this. So they contended that. And, you know, why she would have gone in there again sort of just remains a mystery, I think. But the autopsy did reveal one key factor that almost certainly contributed to Kenneka's death, that one drug that I mentioned earlier. So there was traces of a pharmaceutical called topiramate, or topiramate, I'm not sure how one actually says it, which is used to treat epilepsy and migraines. And Kenneka had not been prescribed this drug. It's not clear why she took this or where it came from at all. Like, that was I never heard anything else about that.
That's
and
quite mysterious.
You'd think the police would want to investigate that. You know, I mean, where did this drug that she wasn't prescribed to, where did it come from?
Was she...
I don't know.
Was she black?
Yeah, she was black.
Yeah, it's different when you're black. Everything's different when you're black. It's fucked up.
That's true. So, as I'm getting my place back here...
I can't hear you. Mac is so loud.
I know, right? It's like super loud. Mac has been a very consistent presence in this podcast today. Oh, right. So a side effect of topiramate is to enhance the effect of alcohol and hypothermia.
Oh?
So it was sort of weirdly the deadliest combination that she could have actually experienced.
Yeah, that's like weirdly appropriate for what happened. Ooh,
Right.
I don't like that.
But it's not. It's not like
a
a quote unquote date rape drug.
I know,
it's not
but...
something that's typically used for that, which is also weird. But yeah, it weirdly like increases the severity of hypothermia.
What if it was suicide?
I never heard anything about that, but I mean, who's to know, really, right? And her blood during the autopsy, her blood alcohol content was found to be 0.112, so well over the legal limit of 0.08.
Yeah.
I believe it's 0.08 in Illinois. I'm not sure. So the drug probably, obviously, contributed to Kenneka's, especially drunk behavior, and maybe some of the mood effects as well. I'm not sure. On the night of her death. And the autopsy also confirmed that Kenneka had suffered from hypothermia before she died, which was indicated by lesions in her stomach. So the importance of that to me is that she wasn't killed and then moved into this freezer.
Yeah.
She died in the freezer. We know that because she contracted hypothermia while she was in there. So the only outward trauma on her body, though, was, quote, an abrasion on the right ankle and a purple contusion on her right leg, close quote. Which I'm assuming she just got while she was stumbling. You know, she, like I said, she was hitting walls and stumbling onto things, so that wouldn't seem to, indicate more than that.
Was there cameras in the room? Like, do we see her opening the door and going in the freezer?
No, the outer door to the cooler is just outside the frame of the last camera security footage.
Ah, of course it is.
I know. And there's no footage inside. And in fact, it was apparently pitch black within there, or at least dark. So it's not clear that would have even captured anything. So while authorities continued to receive tips about foul play and other, like I said, fanciful, more or less, scenarios, and didn't rule any of those out, right? Which, of course you can't do. I mean, anything is possible, almost. They considered all of those to be pretty unlikely. And like I said, we're pretty much just going with the accidental death, misadventure, scenario. And police confirmed that the latching mechanism on both sides of the freezer was working, so she wasn't locked in there, even accidentally. And they also said that they confirmed that the lights would have been off. So,
okay,
just to kind of nail down those details of what occurred. And then on October 6th of 2017, Cook County Medical Examiner's Office officially ruled Kenneka's death an accident and closed the case. Kenneka's mother, Teresa, filed civil suit for $50 million in damages against Crown Plaza Hotel, quote, its security contractor and the restaurant that was renting space at the time, close quote. The suit alleges, quote, had defendants properly intervened when they observed Kenneka visibly disoriented, confused, and lost within their premises, they would have prevented her from entering the abandoned kitchen and prevented her death, close
yeah,
quote.
Where was everybody, right?
Exactly, which, again, did they not do that because they were aware of this party and they didn't want to, raise suspicion? We don't know. That's sort of part of the mystery as well. But there's they're alleging some amount of negligence on the part of the hotel, etc. So we're left with what I think are just a series of questions, right? Why didn't, like we're just talking about, the hotel staff intervene if Kenneka was, obviously, as we see, so clearly in distress, to the point where you would think that they really should have called an ambulance for her. If someone's looking like that, they are in danger of alcohol poisoning. Why did her friends leave her, right? Even briefly, when she was, again, in that
That's a good
severely
question.
inebriated condition. That's a huge mystery to me. Never would seem to be answered in my sources. And most bafflingly, why would Kenneka ever have gone into a disused kitchen area under construction, open 2 latches into consecutively colder rooms, one of which is freezing, and then fall asleep on the floor? Why? Why would anyone do that, even if they were really drunk? It's not typical drunk person behavior. All I'm saying. It's a very unsatisfying mystery.
It's sad.
It's very sad. It's just
but
purely tragic.
It's weird, and it's very scary.
Well, and that's
it's
the
very
thing,
real.
Because how scary is it? Because was she killed or not? That's the scary mystery that wraps around the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
That everyone's so fascinated with. I mean, obviously, again, this person was cut down in the prime of their life, right before she was getting ready to take the next step into her future.
Mm-hmm.
That's the tragedy, right? That's why it's so sad and tragic. But if there is also someone who killed someone in 2017 in Chicago, then we should know that, because they might be doing it to other people.
Yeah.
And we just don't know. Huge mystery. And I'm glad that they brought it back, that the person who slid into our DMs brought it back into our attention.
God.
I had to say it, but just once. I'll just say it once. But I had to. So absent some kind of deathbed confession, some kind of amazing, miraculous revelation, this would seem to remain a mystery, like so many that we talk about. And of course, people compared this to the Elisa Lam case.
That's what I was thinking about. Yeah.
It's sort of an inevitable comparison, and that is such a confounding case. Although the indications for murder in that case are more robust than in this one, for sure.
Yeah.
And, did we do that one?
Yes,
We
you did that one.
I thought so. So anyway, that's my mystery for this time, our 99th episode.
Yay! I'm proud of us.
And I know, right? I know even Bridget, my brother's wife, was like, oh yeah, you guys are up to almost 100. So anyway, my sources are Wikipedia, the death of Kenneka Jenkins episode, or page, I should say. Christina Coleman at Essence, John Kyleman, Gregory Pratt, John Byrne, and Catherine Rosenberg Douglas at Chicago Tribune, and Mandy Sedlak Heavener at Ranker, Candace Sutton and Rohan Smith at news.com.au, Maria Perez at Newsweek, Amy B. Wang at Washington Post.
Okay, I'm going to start with my sources first because I didn't write them down. They're just open. So I am talking about the Bricca family murders. And this happened in 1966, so this is an old one. And I think it's funny that you said deathbed confession or something like that, because I don't think this is ever going to get solved. It's been 50-some years. And I think that if it's going to be solved, it's because somebody had a deathbed confession and then worked from there. That's my opinion. I don't think it's going to get solved. But my sources, Cincinnati Magazine, an article by Grant Fraking called Death on a Quiet Street, and excerpts from the book Summer's Almost Gone by J.T. Townsend, as well as an article on his website, jttownsend.com, and an article for WCPO ABC in Cincinnati by Greg Noble. And those are my sources. So, this is a brutal one. September 27th, 1966, the members of the Bricca family were found slain in their home, and to this day, we have no suspects. So, Jerry Bricca. Jerry Bricca was born in San Francisco, California. He went to Stanford University and earned a degree in engineering in 1960s. Very smart dude. He was 28 years old at the time of his death. He was a chemical engineer. He worked at the Monsanto Plastics facility, and he actually first worked up in Seattle, but he was transferred over to Cincinnati, where he met he actually met his wife, Linda, in Seattle. Linda Jane Bulaw. So Linda was a stewardess for American Airlines at the time. She grew up in Barrington Hills, Illinois. She was rich.
Yeah.
Barrington is...
Is that one of the northwest suburbs?
Very wealthy, very wealthy.
Yeah.
Neighbors recall her, quote, unusual passion for animals, which led her to taking a part-time job at a how do you say that? Veterinary?
Yeah. Well, if you're British, you could say it.
Veterinary.
Veterinary.
A veterinary clinic.
Yeah.
End quote. That was pretty bad. I apologize. Doctor!
Been watching a lot of Doctor Who.
Lots of Doctor Who.
Sorry, guys.
And they got married in November of 1961. So this very cute, young, happy couple. On June 9th, 1962, Linda gave birth to a little girl. They named her Deborah Ann. And then a little more than a year later was when they moved over to Cincinnati. So neighbors describe Jerry as he's hardworking, friendly, always quick with a smile. And, you know, like I said, by all accounts, they were happy. They were this classic all-American family, you know. They even had 2 dogs, one named Thumper, the other named Dusty. They lived in a subdivision called Woodhaven in Bridgetown, which is an area on the west side of Cincinnati. So they lived in the suburbs, which is interesting to note because at this time, the Cincinnati Strangler was on the loose. And I believe when this happened, he had killed 4 people, and then shortly after had killed his 5th victim. However, the Cincinnati Strangler was killing old women and within the city limits. So people in the suburbs kind of thought they were relatively safe until this happened. However, it was determined that this was not the Cincinnati Strangler, but it happened during a heightened time of fear.
Okay.
So yeah, classic 60s suburban neighborhood, white picket fences, 2.5 kids, major crime was unheard of, you know. The Briccas were the youngest couple in the division, and the neighbors actually dubbed them, quote, the kids. And, you know, the family actually mostly kept to themselves, but the neighbors knew enough of their daily routine to notice when something wasn't right. So, the last time Jerry Bricca was seen was Sunday, September 25th, 1966, taking out the trash so it could be collected Monday morning. It was Tuesday, September 27th, when the neighbors started to become suspicious. No one had seen the Briccas the day before on Monday. So, the last time Jerry was seen was Sunday. Nobody had seen them on Monday. Their trash cans were still on the curb, which was unusual. One of the neighbors said that Linda was, quote, religious about the trash cans, and she always picked them up in a timely manner when they were empty. And that day there were newspapers on their curb, the morning newspaper, the evening newspaper, and then the morning newspaper, still out there. And the dogs were barking nonstop. So Betty Meyer, one of the neighbors, she goes to her husband Dick Meyer, and she's like, something's wrong over there. You should bring you should see what's going on over there. So he actually calls Jerry's workplace and finds out that he actually hadn't shown up there for 2 days. And so Dick Meyer calls his friend Dick Jansen, friend and neighbor, to voice his concerns, and the 2 men went to go check on the family that night between 10 and 10:30 p.m. The lights were on, and the dogs were barking, but nobody answered the door when they knocked. The door was unlocked, and when it opened, the place smelled foul. Meyer had served in World War II, so he knew what was going on. He said, quote, "I told Dick there was something dead in there," recalls Meyer. "There's not another smell like that in the world," end quote. So, John Bricca, 28 years old, and Linda, 23 years old, were found in their upstairs bedroom, and Debbie, 4 years old, was found in hers. All had been brutally stabbed. Police were called. The crime scene was secured. Meyer and Jansen were called into the house to identify the bodies, and eventually they were carried out. The So once the autopsy was conducted was when lots more was revealed. And that's when it was released to the public how truly bad this crime was, how horrifying. And Jerry and Linda had been bound before they were killed. Jerry had a sock stuffed in his mouth, possibly taped, as there was tape found around his chin. Jerry was stabbed in the back and the neck 9 times. Linda had been stabbed in the chest 8 times, and she also had shallow cuts on her face, which were most likely defensive wounds, but we don't know. I've heard stuff like killers, if there's like shallow wounds, I've heard stuff of like killers being like hesitant and like, before they actually like get in and do it. But this was on her face, so it might have been taunting or torture or defense wounds. Like, we don't know. It's very peculiar. And Debbie had been stabbed 4 times, and she was stabbed completely through, like straight to fucked up, right? And the placing of the stab wounds suggests that the killer used a carving knife with his left hand, though no murder weapon was ever found or identified. And most of the wounds were deep, like 7 inches deep. Yeah. So this was brutal, personal, overkill murder. And, you know, as we were talking about earlier, this is like a suburb in Cincinnati, Ohio. You know, it's 1966. We have like this all-American family, sweet, young, living here. And this totally spooked the town, shocked everybody. One newspaper reported people, quote, buying ice picks, beer can openers, tear gas guns, shotguns, pistols, ammunition, door locks, barrel bolts, and door chain guards in an effort to protect themselves, end quote. Beer can openers, I don't know why. I don't know what that's about. But one of these things is not like the other. That's what I thought of when I read that list.
It would make a good weapon because it's got a handle and you can
I don't
it
know.
under your pillow at night. I'm not sure.
Sure. The SPCA reported that lots of large dogs were being adopted at a higher rate, and people started to petition for more streetlights. They hired Night Watch. They hired like another officer for the first time for like around the clock police service, which wasn't something that actually was enforced there. They didn't have round the clock police service. Like, I think I read that the police worked like 12 to 14 hour days, but they weren't like on patrol like at in the middle of the night, you know, like there wasn't 24-hour service, which is interesting. And people were scared. Trick or Treat was moved to Sunday afternoon. Like, it was crazy. The investigation went on it's still going on. The officers that are at the precinct now, they do review it from time to time, and it's still an open case. And it's one of those things that they're still looking for tips. They're still looking for help from the public. I don't know that they'll ever get that help. I mean, by 7 months after the police had interviewed, by that time the police had said they interviewed over 300 people, but none of them had any tips, any solutions, anything that they could grab at and work off of. There were no leads, no suspects. They were still searching for the alleged murder weapon, a teak wood knife with a steel blade, and that was a knife that was missing from the home. So we don't even know if it was the murder weapon in the first place. We just know that there was a knife missing from their house. There were no signs of forced entry, and the house had been ransacked, but nothing of value was taken, so it wasn't like a robbery gone wrong or anything like that, which, you know, you'd think would be the case, right?
Yeah, it almost feeds into, again, that rage. It seems like very much a rage kill, which would seem to suggest that it was someone who knew them personally. Right,
especially since there was no, sign of forced entry. That's what I think. I think it was somebody who knew them personally. And, they interviewed a lot of people, but, they never really came up with anything solid. Police presume that this was planned, and although passionate, it wasn't like in the heat of the moment. Police theorize that Debbie may have been killed because she could have recognized her parents' killer, or killers, you know. We don't know. We've got to keep all of our options open at this point. Mm-hmm. The murder was violent, described as overkill, and like you said, the police also suspected that this person was not a stranger. Mm-hmm. And the media, of course, was all over this, right? This went national. It was very brutal, very unexpected, and it was, again, this all-American family, and that's what people want to... I mean, as you and I know, that's something that people tend to hitch on to the most when it's this, like, classic family, because at that point it's like, oh, this could happen. Oh, if they're not safe in their, like, idyllic neighborhood, like, are we safe over here? Like, that's...
Yeah, I think that the headline of family killed, it just makes such a brutally, arrestingly, spectacular headline.
Yeah.
That I think it really attracts people's attention. I mean, just like the Hendricks family murder that we talked about from here, from Normal. When those things happen, it's so, like you're saying, it cuts to the core of your own safety. Any family could be killed. Yeah. My family could be killed.
It's like, oh, that house across the street, the one that's right over there? Yeah, 3 people were killed in that house yesterday. Right. Like, what the fuck? Yeah. Oh, my God. Lieutenant Herbert Vogel and County Prosecutor Melvin Ruger, they were the main investigators in the case, and they were the ones that were mostly speaking to the media about their theories and what they think may have happened. But then, of course, it was an open case at the time, and there wasn't much that they could say. I mean, it's still an open case. So, questions, theories, right? Was there more than one killer? Did one person take down 2 adults and tie them up? That's what I was kind of interested in as well. This was a family, an entire family, it could have been more than one person. If robbery wasn't the motive, then what was the motive, right? Where's the murder weapon, and was the knife missing from the home, even the murder weapon in the first place? One theory that circulated was that the killer was a man Linda had been having an affair with, but that was never confirmed. It was just a rumor. There were also rumors that Jerry was having an affair, or that this was like a mafia hit, or that this was like a planned, like, assassin or something.
Doesn't seem like that. This is not an assassin or a mob hit's typical MO.
I don't think so either. It's too much.
Yeah.
Too much. It's not silent or hidden. This was shocked everybody. Yeah. And, maybe there was something going on at Jerry's job. Like, did he know something he wasn't supposed to? And police did have one suspect. However, that guy was interviewed twice, and then he lawyered up real quick, and then he stopped talking. And so there was nothing that they could do at that point. I think I read that Herbert Vogel, the lieutenant, like, blamed it on the Miranda ruling, and there was some issues there. But that's really all they had, and eventually, that guy died or disappeared in the wind, and...
That was right around that time when the Miranda ruling happened, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But this one's very mysterious to me because it's so random. It's disturbing. It's, like, brutal. I couldn't find much about their families or people coming in to talk about them or anything like that, which was weird. And the article in Cincinnati magazine noted that as well. They were like, there were no, like, tearful family members, like, on the news, like, asking for justice and stuff like that, which... I don't know if it's just something that was lost in time, but
maybe they just didn't have family that could get there.
Also,
do those things.
Yeah.
I mean, weren't they from somewhere else? You said.
Yeah, she was from Barrington, Illinois, and he was from San Francisco, California, and they lived in Seattle for a little bit, and then they moved over to Cincinnati.
Maybe they were just disconnected from their family.
Maybe, we don't know.
But they seem to kind of be disconnected from the neighborhood too.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So maybe that means something, but
Who knows?
Who's
It could
to
mean
say?
anything. It could mean that they're focused and
So, yeah.
busy,
Right.
or it could mean that there's some shady shit going on. We don't know.
Exactly. And as always, it could be aliens. You always have to leave that possibility
It's
open.
not aliens.
I mean, but it could. But
It wasn't
okay,
aliens.
fine.
I'm shutting
Shoot
you
me
down
down. Shoot
on the
me down.
alien theory. But that is the story of the
Very sad. Very tragic.
Bricca family murders. Right, Mac?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now he's being good.
You know.
Well, I think we have a couple of quick weird shits.
Is
in
it
the
time?
news. It's time.
It's time!
We've finished our mysteries, and now it's time.
I've got mine open.
Me too.
You go first.
Okay. You'll be happy to know that at the Osaka airport, you can now introduce your canine to the canine comfort room, complete with peephole, at which your dog can relieve him or herself and be well equipped to go on their flight. Just a little public service announcement if you're flying into Itami Airport in Osaka, which I
Is that
of course,
Japan?
will never be. Yes, that's correct. So yeah, they got a peephole. It's great. Dogs can go and relieve themselves and relieve their owners of that nagging feeling that their dog needs to relieve themselves. Okay.
That's a good one.
That's it. Thank you.
I have
Is that your weird shit, your text form?
my tax forms. I have. Okay, so this is from HuffPost, and the title is by Ed Mazza, and the title is Monty Python and the Foreign Object. Vets pull something from snake and keep pulling. So this is and I try not to do weird shit that's mostly about a video, but it is mostly about this video of a pet snake in Australia who needed some, like, emergency care after it swallowed an entire beach towel. Gross. The vets at the Small Animal Specialist Hospital in Sydney, this snake is 10 feet. He's a teenager, 18 years old. She, and a jungle carpet python, and they actually, like, gave it anesthesia and, like, found the towel, then they just yanked it out. I mean, they didn't just yank it out, you know,
Right.
There was, like, special equipment and
They
stuff, but
delicately removed it.
the video is pretty wild, and then it's, like, some Mary Poppins pulling out of her bag shit, where they just, like, oh my god, it's crazy. But the pet's name is Monty.
Aw.
Yeah.
And I assume it's going to be okay.
Both snake and towel are now doing well. Quote, Monty was discharged from the hospital the same day, and her owner reports she was back to her happy, hungry self.
That's funny.
Oh, how precious.
Okay.
It's weird that people have pet snakes, right?
Yeah.
That's crazy to me.
Seems cool.
I wonder if they're great pets.
I mean, Ricky always liked having them, my cousin Ricky, but... Okay, well, I think that's about it for
Thank
this
you guys
week.
for listening.
And we'll have a...
And stay tuned for our 100th
100th
episode.
right.
Ooh, go team, go team! Team Mystery!
One more coming sometime in the next couple of weeks.
Yay.
We won't set ourselves to a particular day or anything, just to... But we'll get... Next one will be 100, so... Okay.
Thanks for
Thanks
listening.
y'all.
Follow us on all the social medias. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram.
You can go to my Twitter at MarioTex30, and you can see Mac the Cat at Mac the Cat.
And you can find me.
Instagram.
You can find me on Twitter.
I'm sure you can.
It's not
You can
that
do it.
hard. You can do it.
Twitter's kind of easy. Okay.